tonight, Tom?
I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. Sorry, go ahead. Michael, you want to go ahead and start us off?
All right, Tom. So first off, just like Jesse said, thank you. If you didn't know, we just finished up watching Major League and Major League 2. So obviously very excited to talk about Major League and the Major League 2 sequel. You've probably been asked this a million times, so bear with me if we've asked it again. When you were filming that movie and you were in the clubhouse of Major League and Major League 2, did you know at the time it would turn into such a cult classic hit, like one of the best baseball sports movies of all time? Did you have that feeling while on set, or did you not really know until you saw it later on?
I kind of did have that feeling. First of all, David Ward wrote a great script with great characters and extremely funny as well, I might add. But I had that feeling. I think the other guys did too, that it would be a sports classic. We had that feeling on Platoon as well, or at least I did. But it's definitely on Major League. Yeah.
And when you, speaking of Platoon, I think, was that the first time you met Charlie Sheen and then obviously worked with him later? I read a couple articles that a few of you actually were baseball players or played in high school or played in a little bit of college. And I think that made such a world of a difference watching this movie where the scenes actually look like real baseball players. Did you have any kind of training camp or any kind of like boot camp to kind of get you geared back up for baseball before you shot the movie or during the movie?
Yeah, we did. I started actually with Charlie and I, him pitching, me catching, and Yeager and Steve Yeager.
Oh, the
was
Dodgers.
Catcher, had been.
Wow.
Dodgers, yeah. And Yeager, by the way, was a great coach and a great teacher. I hadn't played catcher before, third base, but he was a very good teacher. I thought not all players are, but he certainly was, and a great, I don't know, like kind of a great teacher, a real morale officer too. While we did the whole shoot, so it was just great having him there all the time with his energy.
Tom, baseball movies and baseball teams, they're an ensemble performance, and I'm curious about the on-set dynamic of an ensemble movie like Major League or Major League 2. Do roles start to develop? Do you start to act as a team, as a group of actors portraying a baseball team?
Definitely. Like I said, at first it was just Charlie and I, and we had a lot of time together. And then we added all the other players, and we had about a week. And I think it was about a week, maybe a week and a half in Tucson, Arizona, where the Indians had their old spring training camp. They're now in Florida. But yeah, and then in that week, we started developing the rapport, certainly on the field, but then also with as acting any of the scenes on or off the field.
Bailey's holding up a sign there that says "Cat Corbett Field." Is that the practice facility, Bailey? You're nodding yes and giving us a thumbs up.
Yeah. Right. We were there, and we actually shot those scenes first, the spring training scenes, and we ran down just across the border in Dallas to pick up a scene where I was playing in the Mexican leagues. Very early in the film.
Right.
When I get
you have that
call,
great phone call like I think you're hungover. You answer the phone. You think it's a joke at first.
Yeah. I think it's one of the guys just messing with me.
All right, Bailey's got a question, but Bailey, make sure you center your sign up in front of your body so we don't lose it in the green screen. All right, Bailey wants to know, how far did you actually drive the bullpen cart?
I probably, outside the stadium, or just off through the stadium and then out onto the street. And then we picked it up over where her apartment would be. I don't recall how far away that was from the stadium, but it's what we used as her apartment through the movie. And what I quite liked was doing the little hand signal, turn left, I think it was.
Yeah.
Right, I don't remember. I like doing the little hand signal.
And that kind of is a good little segue because
it looks kind of silly too, you know.
Well, that's a good segue too because obviously Major League it's an amazing comedy, but there's a little bit of a love story in there too when you rewatch it. What was it like working with Renee? You guys had amazing chemistry in the first and the second film. What was it like working with Renee throughout those two films?
Oh, it was great. I mean, and also, she did extremely well. I mean, you could tell like she was kind of new to the game, but it was her first film.
Oh.
And I thought everybody thought she was really a trooper. And we had some, it was really hot and muggy, and we had some really long days, and she showed a lot of, spunk and stamina.
Yeah, she was great in that film.
You referenced earlier that you had a good idea based on the script that it was going to be a great movie, but Renee Russo, not the only young actor appearing in this film, a ton of young stars who would go on to have great careers. Did you have a sense that Wesley Snipes and, I mean, obviously Charlie Sheen had done some stuff, and I'm blanking on Pedro Cerrano's real name, Dennis Haysbert. Did you have any sense of the careers that they would go on to have?
Yeah, they all got work out of it. I mean, Corbett, people already knew from L.A. Law, and he was great in it too. He's very, very funny, and he was in the film as well. One of the funniest guys, I thought, that on the set. And I actually asked the director to meet him on another film I did, and we played business partners in another film called Shattered. And I said, this guy is extremely funny to love him, because Wolfgang Peterson, the director, was extremely funny as well. And I kind of snuck over there in the afternoon in the studio, and they were having a meeting, but I thought, oh, it must be, this was like an hour after the meeting was supposed to be, and thought it would be over. And then Wolfgang's assistant said, they're still in there listening to him, and they were laughing hysterically. And I said, oh, he got the job. And he did, yeah. But
Bailey's got another
fun,
question.
And I see him probably more than anybody, from time to time in different places.
Well, that is a tough question, Bailey. All right, Bailey wants to know why Wesley Snipes wasn't in the sequel.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm not sure. I mean, he had to be happy with his performance. I mean, I would think, because I thought he was great. I don't think he had a missing moment in there. But I'm not sure. I don't know.
How did that affect the chemistry? I mean, you have this great movie, with this great ensemble cast, and then you come back for the sequel. You've got new characters being introduced. You've got new cast members playing old characters. Was it easy to fall back into the same patterns and camaraderie from the first film?
Actually, it was actually a little more difficult. I remember talking to David after I read it, David Ward, writer-director, and I said, my God, it's hysterically funny. I said, I think every line is brilliant. I mean, it's just great gag lines. And he said, yeah, but therein lies the problem. He's being very honest about it. He said, I think the first one was funny, He said, but he said it had a lot more heart. And I think, and then I agreed with him. I said, yeah, you're right. Because you watch the first one, you just about cry at the end when they win. Right? It's this great ending, but you're almost in tears at the end about it. And I feel that way every time I watch it. However, I have to say that for the second one, everybody seemed a little more dissipated. And that's interesting, because that's exactly what we were supposed to be. We were supposed to be jaded,
Right.
Everybody except maybe me just, dragging ass and kind of talking about their contracts at this and that and so on and so forth, and their billing and I don't know, and all that stuff. And that was exactly what the script was. So there was a kind of, I don't know, it's just, now I wouldn't say empathy is the right word, but just kind of, I don't know, tiredness about it or something. It just wasn't as fresh. But it worked, I guess. All of that did work. That it kind of worked for the movie.
Bailey, you've got another question there? You're disappearing in the green screen there,
He's
Bailey.
there you go.
Did you have a stunt double for normal baseball stuff? Bailey wants to know.
No. One time I have to say Yeager took the hit for me when the guy came down the base. It just creamed into me. And Yeager was built like a fire hydrant. It didn't even phase him.
Well, while we're on the topic, sorry about that, Jesse. While we're on the topic, talking about his stunts and his baseball stuff, the photo behind me obviously is probably one of the most iconic baseball ending. Just like you talked about, you get the goosebumps, you get the emotion, and of course, I remember watching the first time. Oh, he's calling the shot with a home run, and in my mind, I never saw that bunt coming. Could you describe filming that last scene of you keep pointing to the home run stands and then you bunting and having to run it out, and the passion in your face because your knees are shot, trying to beat it out for first? Could you just describe filming that scene for us?
Well, we set that up a little early. It's like the day we finish spring training, and we arrive in Cleveland, and I walk out on the field there. We're like we're in blue jeans and sports coats and stuff. Walk out on the field. I think Charlie's with me and
Wesley.
One of the other players. Wesley, Wesley Snipes. And we're like, kind of just like out there looking at the stadium and everything and all excited about being called up, and being there. And then I do that point in the stands for the home run. So that sets up that last scene of the movie. And it's it's kind of dreamy there, but it sets it up at the one in the end, which is almost sort of amusing and also, okay, it's amusing, but at that point in the game and everything, that's what Babe Ruth did. I believe it was in Chicago sometime back in the 20s or something, when he did that, pointed for the walls. And that, of course, makes the pitcher want to brush me back. He does about 3 or 4 times, and I have to keep hitting the They don't like that kind of arrogance from a batter. But that sets up that whole last thing. And then, of course, it's not a getaway situation. He lays down a perfect bunt down the third baseline. And that's what Lou says, because I signal him, I turn back the dugout and I throw some signals at him, and he goes, "Great idea." and that way, it's like, who's going to expect this guy whose knees are going bad? He's a catcher. He's going to be slower on the baselines. If he lays down a bunt, he's not going to beat it out, but he does. And then Wesley Snipes, of course, comes all the way around the bases from second base and slides in for the home run that wins the game. And it's the most unexpected play.
It's such a great ending. It's such a great ending.
That would be a home run. Ordinarily be a home run, right? Bring him in. Yeah.
One of the listeners in our Twitch chat wonders, Tom, if you were a huge sports fan growing up.
Yeah, weren't we all? I think all you guys were. Yeah.
Did you have a team that you pulled for in baseball?
Well, I was born and brought up in South Side Chicago, so that was the White Sox. That was like the first game I ever saw was White Sox and Yankees, and it kind of stayed that way. Although I have to say I did root for the Cubs because that was, they hadn't won since 1901. Is that correct? Something like that.
I think it was 2000 or 1908. I think. Yeah, there you
1908.
go.
There you go. Yeah. I think it was 1908. I think.
Yeah, I think Tom may have been frozen.
Frozen in time. Tom Berenger frozen.
Probably stunned that Bailey knows anything about the Cubs. But but if I'm not mistaken, aren't the White Sox sort of the villain of Major League Two as we wait for Tom to reset?
They are. I'm trying to think what is it? David Keith plays Jack Parkman, and he's got that little shimmy, and he plays such a great villain in Major League Part 2. He's got that shimmy and that shake, and of course, he originally starts off with the Indians, gets traded, and of course, is that iconic finish at the end, and that makes Part 2 a little bit different than Part 1. Of course, you have more of a, obviously the first movie you don't like the owner, but in the sequel, it's the Parkman that you don't like. Welcome back, Tom.
Hey, there you go, Tom.
Yeah.
We lost you there for a second.
So, Tom, we were talking about,
Yeah, but I just remembered, following the Yankees the entire summer and stuff. It was a whole season because I was in New York and we were on strike. Screen Actors Guild went on strike for a year, and that's what I did.
If you could be a manager, because in Part 2 you obviously become the manager of the team, would you ever want to be a manager of any? If you could choose any sport you want to be a manager of, would you choose baseball? Would you choose hockey? Would you choose basketball, football? If you could be a manager for one season.
Wow,
it's a tough one. I know. I threw a curveball at you
there. Yeah. Well, I like boxing too. I could see myself doing that, but
I'll allow that. That could be a good answer. Boxing could be a good answer. I'll take that one.
Yeah.
Who are some of the boxers that you love to watch or did like to watch?
One of the great fights of all time was Billy Conn when he fought Joe Louis for a heavyweight world championship. Billy Conn was 172-pound light heavyweight, and you could do that sort of thing. You could challenge up, and he challenged him, and they went. I believe it's one of the great fights. They went, I think, into the 12th or 13th round. I think something like that. So it was almost over. And Billy Conn's manager and cornermen were saying, "Run, Billy, run. You've already won on points," because he was extremely fast and aggressive and really fast on his feet and his hands. And he was throwing many more combinations than Lewis. And Lewis was getting tired. He was a bigger guy, and he was getting tired. And they said, "Just run. Just dance around the ring. He's got to run after you. If you didn't ever throw another punch, you'd won the fight." And him, of course, being Irish and hard-headed, decides, "I'll knock him out. I'll finish him off." Right here in Yankee Stadium. That's where they had the fight. Oh, wow. And he got cold-cocked, and he lost the fight. But he didn't listen to his manager. But a great fight, nonetheless. Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Always listen to your manager. That'll explain it.
That's right.
There.
Yeah. Because he's watching. You don't always see everything. It's the same way in all sports. You can't see everything if you're right in it, and you're going 100 miles a minute.
Talking about listening to managers, Tom, I'm curious. You've got an extensive IMDb page. You've had a long and illustrious career. Was there ever a project that an agent or a manager said that you should take or didn't take, where you didn't listen to them and you later wished you had? Bailey says this interview was funny.
Well, I don't know. I know I was like I was. Well, here's it's almost something like that. It was the movie with Richard Gere and that love story. It's kind of like comedy, romantic comedy.
Pretty Woman.
Pretty Woman, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, yeah, and so we talked to the director, Gary Marshall, and everything, and I said, well, yeah. He says, no, well, but listen, I promised my kids that my family that we'd all go to Ireland, and I've kind of planned it and organized it and everything, and I'm going to be over there, several weeks touring around the whole island, and he said, well, can you be back by this time? Can you do this? Can you do that? Will you? Yeah, and I said, yeah, that's no problem. I could do it. But then he said no after that, and I took off for Ireland. Yeah.
Well, their loss is what I say.
But
yeah.
When you promise children something and you've been talking about it for a while, and you promise them and promise them and promise them, you have to follow through on that too.
Yeah.
You know how that is.
Bailey wants us to know that he loves Patrick. So.
Oh yeah. Well, Patrick was there. He was in Ireland, and he had a terrific time. He had a great time. Went trout fishing, played golf, and he was little, but he had a great time. He enjoyed that thoroughly. Still talks about it.
There are tons of projects that you did do, though. Obviously, we know. Is the Major League franchise what you get recognized on the street for the most, or is it something else?
It depends. It can be major. It can be Major League. It can be platoon. It can be sniper. I went on that a couple years ago. My wife and I went on that motorcycle ride in Washington, Rolling Thunder. They ride through the Lincoln Memorial and the Vietnam Wall and all that. And it was like, I don't know, 500,000 motorcycles coming from both of those parking lots, the Pentagon, and it was pretty impressive, the whole thing. Where was I going with this? I'm sorry, I just lost my train of thought.
I think you were saying, is it the motorcycle riders know you from Sniper more? Is that the?
Well, no, I got recognized in the parking lot by three, actually four. There were three young Marine snipers that came, and I went, whoa. They were like, yeah, which I didn't expect. And then another guy who'd been a sniper in Vietnam, and I looked at him and I said, "You were in Vietnam?" He goes, "Yeah." And I go, "You have a German accent?" He goes, "Yeah." He said, "I was an immigrant from Germany, a young guy, and came over." And he says, "And I joined the Marine Corps, and I ended up in Vietnam." And he was a master gunnery sergeant, top NCO rank, and a sniper there in the Nam.
Wow.
So yeah, and then for somebody else, it might be Last of the Dogmen, like out west, particularly. A lot of those people like that. It depends,
How about The Substitute?
Yeah,
Well,
my
like
friend texted me about The Substitute.
That's their favorite movie.
Tom, we were talking a little bit about some of the fans earlier in the Twitch chat while we were watching the movie, and not a lot of people know this. And curious your thoughts that at the obviously the female that's playing the manager, the owner, is obviously you're supposed to hate her and dislike her throughout the movie because she's wanting everybody to lose. I didn't even know this until about a few years ago when a DVD came out that originally the ending was where the owner was actually, she was nice. She was basically saying, "Hey, I did this all to kind of motivate you guys to play well. I wanted you guys to win all along." And then they cut that out of the film after a test screening. Did you agree with the reason they cut it out? Did you think that was a wise decision to make?
I think it's fine. I think it works. I don't remember her being unhappy about that. I think it worked fine.
Yeah,
I'm doing that. I mean, it's like I would say not a perfect movie, but I mean almost. It's close, and I think that was fine. Yeah, and I'm sure that was David's choice. I'm sure that's not the studio or anything like that.
Bailey, you've got a question there on your whiteboard. Bailey wants to know who your favorite actor or actress was to work with.
You probably have a million. You've been in so many things.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, Deborah Winger is probably the smartest actress I ever worked with. And when I say that, I don't mean in an intellectual way. It's just that she was very, besides being extremely disciplined, she just knew her craft. She was very, very good. And Suzanne Plachette, I adored her. She was like a mom, like a stepmom to me. I'm not. The funny thing is, I haven't been in many kind of man-woman movies, like one-on-one type things, or romantic stories. Barbara Hershey and Last of the Dogmen. I mean, they've all been pretty good, I have to say.
What was it like? What was it like to work? We talked about this earlier before we hopped on here on Twitch. What was it like to work on the final 2 episodes of one of the greatest TV shows of all time, Cheers, where you're Rebecca Howe's future husband, and seeing all those amazing actors in one place to wrap up their TV show? What was that like?
Yeah, it was kind of funny because it's like every character was there, right, that we ever saw on that show, and some extras, and it was the audience, of course, that's a live audience, and they were all like very gung ho when we did it, because it was the last 2. And I remember the crew like having coffee and going, "Well, what are we going to do now? We're out of work, you know." Yeah, but you guys got a long run here. Come on, you know. But they didn't want to be in the middle of that. Because that was their concern, what their next job was going to be. But it was great, and what I particularly enjoyed was meeting Mike Ditka. Yeah.
How did you meet Mike Ditka? Was he on the show, or was he?
He's on the show. Yeah, he's in the show.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So that was fun for me.
Yeah, and Bailey says, "Duh, coach from Duh Bears." There you go.
Yeah.
You were in The Big Chill, Tom, which was
so
just ahead of my time, but I know how important a film it was to so many people. Do you have preference isn't the right word, but I'm curious how it feels to work on something like that becomes, sort of a seminal film in a specific point in time versus, not to disrespect the principal or Major League 2, but more, sort of popcorn movies is not the right word I want to use, but more, but broader films, let's say.
Well, the thing about that is, first of all, it is a comedy, even though it's about people coming to a funeral in the first scene, but it is a comedy. And it did extremely well, I might add, but it was, I thought, one of which a kind of a generation movie, and that would be like, like, for example, like at one end you had The Graduate with Dustin Hoffman, and then you had this as bookends, kind of bookends to that generation. And I mean, that's how I saw it. And it's kind of a cult, sort of a cult type of movie, I guess you could say. And I know Larry, I talked to Larry Kazan, writer-director, and he had mentioned, like, he was just kind of going around and calling everybody. And he says, "Well, everybody's still alive." He goes, I just wonder what you think of doing another one. Oh,
that would be an interesting movie.
And then I started laughing. He said, "What are you laughing about?" And I said, "I'm just thinking of the possibilities." I said, "All those same people, all those years later, come back." now they're all married. They all got kids, maybe grandkids. I don't know, but the possibilities are endless. What you could do with that one. Of course, now the whole business is shut down because of the pandemic. So this is almost like the actors' strike of 1979, I believe it was. The one I was talking about, where I spent months watching the Yankees play every single game, I think, and that was a year long. The writers piggybacked us, Writers Guild. So that was a tough one. A year out of work, but that's what this whole thing reminds me of right now. But it's not just actors this time; it's a lot of people.
Yeah.
And that's the one good thing about, Bailey's been doing these amazing movie nights. We can all kind of get together and watch some of your amazing movies, Tom, and of course Major League and Major League 2 being it. So it's kind of nice without having real sports right now. At least we can watch some of your sports movies that have kind of gotten us through these times. And I mean, obviously the internet has been talking about it for years, but
yeah, I mean, sports itself too. Like it's like you're watching these old World Series games, or championship basketball games going way back and stuff. And it's kind of fun, It's sort of fun watching those again, I have to admit.
Yeah, it's hard to beat the real thing, of course, but at least we got something to cling on to for now. When you shot those movies, I mean, obviously there were some extras in there, but what was it like filming in front of thousands of extras and kind of having that? Did it feel like a real game when they were going out and cheering and stuff for you for the certain takes and things like that? Did you get that feel like it was a real sporting event?
Yeah, I mean, obviously not all the time, because like we shoot that, we did the championship game first because that's where we really needed the audiences in Milwaukee, all right, and then later Baltimore on the other one. But it's they brought it was an amazing number of people, and it would fill the grandstands, the upper deck and the lower deck, and it would go from behind home plate and all the way out to, past first base, all the way out to right field, and then they would move the whole audience across the stadium, and they would, and you could shoot down the third base line and all the way out to left field, and then they would do waves, and you'd see those going. But then, when we ran out there, they go, "Ladies and gentlemen, the Cleveland Indians," and we ran out, and it was like they were all banging on the seats and the stadium steps and whatnot, and it was kind of exciting.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Now, real late at night, when we're still shooting as a night, because it's like you're shooting all night, we would start to lose people. Like we'd start to go home finally, and then it would end up being, I would say, pretty much that would be the batter, me catching, and the umpire.
Oh, and that would be it.
And you would see some people behind the backstop, and then everybody else had already gone home.
Movie magic, I tell you.
And so you'd be there like real late doing those things, but I mean, we know that, that's we'd enjoyed the other stuff earlier in the day. Yeah.
Do you have any kind of lasting relationship with the Indians, or more importantly, with Indians fans as a result of these films?
Not so much the Indians, but with the fans, yeah. They're pretty avid, and of course they've had some great teams, as we know here. And I was a little bit torn because I wanted to see them win again, but it's like I go, the Cubs have got to win this, for God's sake,
Yeah, that's bad timing for Cleveland.
Yeah, when I said, I know Cleveland's, they've got a really good club now and all that, good pitchers and stuff. But they'll come back. They'll be there again.
Yeah, the year after Major League 2 came out, 94 came out, 95, the following year, the Indians actually went to the World Series, and they went to a Game 7 and lost to the Braves, I believe. But it's fun to see how your movie almost came true. Like, they did get to the World Series, and you predicted it in a way.
That's right.
Yeah.
Tom, I would get in trouble if I didn't ask this, because one of my best friends, Ryan, has seen Major League more than times I can count. You and I have talked about this, how, you probably haven't seen as many times as some of these crazy Major League fans. Is there any particular line from the film you get asked to say, or you get approached about, or get repeated in your head? Because there's so many great quotes that you have and everybody else. Are you ever asked about Major League quotes that there's a random stranger, they'll say something over and over to you again or anything like that?
Well, they usually say quotes, so
Right.
I don't have, but I can't say that I remember all my lines, even, from the movie. Of course, or the second one, but they do, which means they've seen it a lot more than I have, and they can watch the movie saying all the lines like they were in it.
Here's your live chicken. That's what Bailey says. Yeah, that's a good one.
Right. It might get a little tedious to people who haven't seen the movie before and want to watch it without them walking away on the side, but yeah, I mean, it's kind of like iconic baseball. It's just great baseball. Baseball can be very, very funny too.
If you look at any Google list, any movie list, any database, Major League is in pretty much the top 3 of all baseball movies of any list you'll ever see. It's just that good. It really is.
Yeah. I mean, I like Bang the Drum Slowly. That old movie. I thought that was pretty cool. I'd read the book and it was a short novel, but I like that and I like the movie. The one with Gary Cooper and Gary Cooper is part of the Yankees. Yeah.
Part of the Yankees. Yeah.
Arrogant. He gets the cancer at the end, and he makes that speech, which was a true thing that really actually happened. We've seen the footage, and you hear his voice echoing through the stadium, and then he walks into the into the bomb. Back down to the clubhouse, and you just see him walking in there, silhouetted with the cleats on Mr. Matt, and it's like, oh, you guys have to break down. That's another baseball classic.
Well, I think one of the nicest things one can say about a movie is if it happens to come on, if I'm flipping through the channels or if I'm looking for something to do, late at night, I'm flipping through Netflix or HBO or whatever, and I see Major League, I will absolutely stop and watch it. And I was telling Michael before we did this tonight, he's saying like, when was the last time you watched Major League 2? And I was like, literally 2 weeks ago. We didn't know we were doing this. I just felt like watching them, so I watched them again. So I want to thank you very much.
I bet you know all the lines, Jesse. I bet
you know. I don't know all of them, but I knew more of them than I had expected. I was surprised at how well I remember them. No, but it was a great movie, some great characters. So thank you for that, and thank you for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, you got it, guys. My pleasure. Thank you.
And, so much. Thank you.
We can't read your sign there, Bailey, but I can tell that it says thank you something. You want to hold that sign up one more time, Bailey? Yes. Thank you so much for staying up late with us. We appreciate that too. And thanks to your family for putting up with all of the work, all of the setup. But again, I am Jesse Go, and so for Tom Berenger, Michael Alexander, and Bailey, thank you for watching Kings fans. We will be back next week.